Okay. Well, story time with Grandpa Ghost. All right.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay!
And immediately we have to pause because I'm almost out of I'm almost out of adult beverage and my vape is currently MIA.
Just leave it in there for the blooper reels.
Yep. All right, Rabid, Jake, while I go find those necessary pieces of teaching equipment, um, I will be able to hear you. The audience will be able to hear you. Go ahead and explain to everybody what was the original edition of 40K that you were exposed to, so that we have a good handle on what lore level you are at.
I'll let Rabbit answer this one first.
I, the way I was exposed to 40K was a bunch of nerds in middle school trying to say, "Oh, 40K could just beat Star Wars," and just me and the Star Wars nerds outnumbered the 40K nerds. They're like, "Nah, you're stupid."
Which
And it was like,
edition was it? Because it probably happened.
I think that was like around fifth edition. Because I remember a lot of people were angry when the Tau were first announced. Like fifth.
Hmm.
I didn't get properly into the 40K setting until a little at like I think around beginning of ninth. And I didn't get much into 40K besides I guess Jesus, that stuck. Around I guess
Beast.
the Beast. I think I think that much like everyone else that I know, our entryway into 40K later on was TTS. Which rip to them, but it's understandable why. And people who say otherwise, you're just rude. Because I've seen some of those comments are saying, "Oh, to the left because they were tired and all that." And like, no, there was more stuff planned. We talked to some people who were, you know, who were supposed to be new characters in the show, and just it's just GW being GW.
They just wanted to get out of there before.
Yeah,
Before I don't. Either way, they're doing better for themselves now. I
yeah.
got involved at like fifth edition. I still have my fifth, sixth, whatever the fuck edition of Eldar. Uh, Still sad that Karandras doesn't have a new model. You know, kind of a pity. I basically found it whenever I moved into a new neighborhood. Dude invited me into his garage. And I saw these fucking models on the table with like this pre-made little Arctic battleground map made of foam and shit. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And that's where I spent a lot of summer nights in that specific year, just playing Warhammer. And now we're here. So, but all things considered, I still have like a super surface level knowledge of 40K of
Mm-hmm.
war of like anything that isn't fantasy. Um, the 40Ks and Horus Heresies just never really gripped me as much as fantasy did. Which is why I'm here to be the good little goober for Grandpa Ghost to to educate me.
Yes, I am.
Especially especially me because I'm more of a recent addition
Let's
to liking
see.
Warhammer in general.
What is
Jake got me into fantasy.
As God intended.
All right. Well, let's just look up here. see what I can find here real quick. All right. Well, to start with, I don't know if you guys know or not, but there is technically an edition 0 of Warhammer 40k.
I have heard of this edition 0 among the grapevine. Just like my exploration of Warhammer in general.
Yeah. So there was an era. There is the era of Rogue Trader. That's what I've been pulling up here. This was the cover art for the Rogue Trader rule book.
Crimson Plus.
Depending on exactly how you look at it, and I forget exactly how they officially labeled all of the editions, but the long and short of it is that when 40k was originally started, it was actually meant to tie in with Warhammer Fantasy.
Weirdly enough.
Yeah. Now, a lot of the old guard know this already, but just for, the youngins that don't know, when Games Workshop first got started, a lot of their stuff was just D&D miniatures and things like that, and then they had the brilliant idea of, hey, let's make our own thing. And so they started making their own things, and they eventually produced Warhammer, which is the fantasy version of the game. And then somebody had the brilliant idea of, hey, but what if that took place in space?
Space.
Yeah. And so you wind up with Rogue Trader. And this has a carryover effect into a lot of the later lore. So the whole reason why the big 4 Chaos Gods exist in both universes, despite the fact that the two universes are technically supposed to be non-canon with each other, is because of this era. The Rogue Trader era is the starting point of this, and so rather than create 4 entirely new Chaos Gods and 4 entire new demon armies just for Warhammer 40,000, it said, screw it. We'll keep the Chaos Gods. And Rogue Trader was very, very experimental. So a lot of the stuff, a lot of the lore in Rogue Trader was a little bit all over the place, and it was not as rigid as it is today because everything was still very experimental. I'll go easy on you guys to start with. Do you know what a hair squig is?
I have heard of this from the hit Warhammer game called Blood and Teeth, where you're playing as a orc.
So, in the Rogue Trader era, one of the things that was one of the aspects of the space orcs is that all space orcs are bald. They are hairless creatures. But the orcs have their squiggly beasts, or as they're referred to nowadays and back in the lore as squigs. Well, the squigs came in lots of different breeds, including these hair squigs. And essentially all the hair squig is a parasite that grows long, wavy fur bits. And orcs would let one of these things clamp onto its head, brush it, comb it, dye it, whatever. And that's where the orc ponytail top knots originally come from.
Hmm.
They're not actually originally hair of the orcs. They were originally parasites. And they had more than just like hair squigs and then the regular squigs, like, this adorable little atrocity. They
Right, look at
also,
that face.
yeah,
Hmm.
you also had these paint squigs and all these other just bizarre things that came out of this highly experimental period in the Rogue Trader era. So we used to have more squigs than just what we've got now. But yeah, this is also part of why a squig burger is a thing. Because they had specific attack squigs. They had food squigs like cows. You've got the giant squigoths. Like,
The Squigoths is a classic.
oh, here we go. Let's just pull this up here real quick. Oh, here it is. See if we can. Now we can't actually read it. Dang it. All right, let's see here. Yeah, here you go. The buzzing squig. Buzzer squigs.
So all this just to say, they were really, really trying new shit.
Yep. Like, and part of this too was that, like, this gob squig. This gob squig is literally just. Do you know what a cleaner wrasse fish is?
No.
No.
So a cleaner wrasse is a coral fish, and it's one of the few fish in a coral reef that basically is safe from everything. Um, you will have a lot of sharks and bigger predatory fish that will pull up to cleaner wrasse colonies, not to eat the wrasse, but rather to have the wrasse pick over the larger fish's bodies and eat parasites and stuff. Obviously, certain smaller predatory fish are not going to do that. They're just going to eat the wrasse. But like Goliath groupers will do this. Sharks will do this. The gobsquig was another one of those, weird things where an orc will just pick up a gobsquig, chuck it in his mouth, and just leave it there. He doesn't eat it. He doesn't swallow it. He leaves it in his mouth like like stuffed into his lip like it's a wad of chewing tobacco, and the gobsquig will just clean his teeth. There's a lot of just wild experimental stuff back in the Rogue Trader era. And nowadays, a lot of that's been left in the past. That's one of the things that happened. You guys want to see? Let me show you Lehman Russ.
Oh, wait, is there a really old Lehman Russ model?
Not so much a model, but this is Rogue Trader era Lehman Russ.
It's kind of hard to make out what exactly I'm fucking looking at here.
I know. Yeah. The artwork went very, very hard back in the day. It was very
hard.
It's very, very busy, very chaotic. So I'll give you the long
very
and short.
Picasso.
Yeah. I'll give you the long and short of what you're looking at. What you are looking at is a man. not a Primarch, a man.
Okay.
This man is Lehman Russ, and behind him in the background, you can see two space wolves. Okay?
Is that what's behind him?
Yes, those are supposed to be two space wolf space marines.
This
Now-
is like a litmus test.
I know. So back in the day, the Primarchs were not the lab-grown, bioengineered sons of the Emperor. They were just dudes that founded a chapter of Space Marines. And that was it. Lehman Russ was just a dude.
That was it.
That was it. Then you get as you continue moving forward, and the Emperor's plan and the Horus Heresy really starts getting fleshed out. That's when it starts becoming this whole thing of, oh, the Emperor knew that he was going to need the perfect generals to lead the perfect soldiers, and so he created the Primarchs, and he tweaked their DNA and did this and did that and on, and you get into the lore that you guys know today. But originally, there wasn't really that.
That's an excellent question, dog. What does Dorn look like now?
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Let's see if there even is any art for him.
Yeah. Wasn't Dorn like mentioned the first few times in old 40K?
I mean, so some of the Primarchs were mentioned, others were not. Some of the Primarchs just straight up did not exist in the Rogue Trader era. I know for a fact Lehman Russ is one of the ones that is specifically mentioned. I don't believe
I'll be right back.
that there actually is. There you go.
What am I looking at?
These are the oldest models from when 40K really became a thing.
You know, there is a charm about these old models, but man,
Yeah, I mean, look, there's
they are something special.
That's Commissar Yarick right there.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is that old one, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Here you go. Comparison of Commissar Yarick then versus now.
I like how it was an actual crab claw before they just kind of refined the style more.
Yeah. There has been quite a bit of refinement over the years. And you have Ragnar Blackbane, Njal Stormcaller, Ulrich the Slayer. These are, three of the big names within the Space Wolf Legion. You then have Lehman Russ himself. And, look at his mini compared to, Ulrich the Slayer right next to him. Lehman's just the same size. There's no real difference between them.
Lehman's just a guy.
Yep. Then you've got Gazgul.
That's Gazgul?
That is Gazgul.
Oh. He's got a funny hat.
There you go. These are all of Gazgul's models over the years.
Okay, so I kind of like the one on the far right the most.
That's the one that most people know of. Long story short, as far as modern 40k players are concerned, this one on the right is Gazgul. This was his miniature for years, if not decades. This one in the back, this is his Indomitus Crusade era upgrade. And then obviously this little guy in the front here, including this little Gretchen standard bearer. This was his most original miniature. That's the one that the really old players will recognize.
I see that they never really changed the art style of the orcs. They've just changed. They've really just changed what they wear. Because originally they're like space Mongolians, or at least this guy right here, he's like a space Mongolian. Then they're diesel punk, and now it's sort of like Mad Max.
To a certain extent, the Mad Max vibe was always there with them. It really just depends on where exactly you're going with it. But yeah, that, like, look at the size difference.
Yeah, that's fucking massive.
Yeah.
One day we'll have Gazgul fight Angron. That's what I'm hoping.
But yeah, so there's a certain very cartoony charm to the old minis. Because, you know, like I said, this is Lehman Russ. This is his old miniature.
I do love that they all have those little stands on their back where you're supposed to put those little plastic flags.
Yeah.
Those little, like, they're like tape flags.
Yep. Let's see. Let's just. Yeah, this is what you're talking about. The ones that just kind of you tape to the post.
Yeah, in a way, I kind of miss that, but on the other hand, I like painting. I like painting the flags that were given.
Yep. You'll also notice if we
God, what am I looking at?
you're just looking at old Space Marines.
I am back.
This is what Space Marines used to look like. And like I said, the thing was, back in the day, Space Marines weren't super soldiers the way we recognize them today. What they were is that they were just dudes in armor.
Yeah, it was basically just actual power armor.
Yeah, that was the big thing about the Space Marines. And the chapters were just these like brotherhoods.
Yeah, and from what I remember, there were like guardsmen, but they can also pilot dreadnoughts.
Yeah. So
like the dreadnoughts at the time were like miniature mechs that both the
Yeah.
Space Marines and the guardsmen can just walk in and out of. They weren't entombed or anything like like dark like what's the word? Grim.
They
There you
weren't
go.
the sarcophagus.
Yeah.
There you go.
And they're on square bases, too.
Yep. The old dreadnoughts. Actually, here you go. Old Space Shark Dreadnought. New Space Shark Dreadnought.
I like the box nuts.
Then another interesting thing here is, I believe this one here on the left. This is a Eldar. Oh no, sorry, that's a Chaos Dreadnought. Then you have an Orc Dreadnought, and then you have an Imperial Dreadnought. So everything was just a Dreadnought. All of the mechs were Dreadnoughts.
Yeah, so it's more like a classification of something.
Yeah. It was a classification, not a specific unit. And a lot of these miniatures you could still get. Obviously not from GW themselves, but if you go on like eBay or something, you'll be able to find these. There, like I said, there is a certain very cartoony charm to them. You see, here you go. Space Orc Dreadnought. Boom. Nowadays, these are Killicans and oh god, what's the other one? I don't know my orc stuff as well as I should.
Was it Killicans?
Death Dreads. That's what it is. There's the
Death Dreads.
Yeah, there's the so nowadays this one on the right is a Killican and this one on the left is a Death Dread. Oh yeah, before we had the Grey Knights, we had the Demon Hunters in their Terminator armor. Hey Jake, does one of these look familiar to you?
Yes, it does. It looks like one of the Potato Boys.
Yep, this is where Games Workshop actually pulled their own inspiration for the latest release of the Saturnine. There you go. Now, to be fair, this old Terminator armor, this old Saturnine, or this old Terminator armor was an experiment Games Workshop did to produce them. So this miniature is, as far as I am aware, very, very rare because they made a few test versions of it, and that was it.
I saw a picture of someone who had. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, as far as I am aware, these were produced, these were sold, but they didn't sell as well as these other Terminators that became the norm.
Let's see. I saw a guy on Reddit who had like 5 of them.
Yeah.
So
that's like $1,000 right there.
Yeah, fucking rare models.
Like $1,000 per pop.
You know what? Let's see.
Let's check eBay. Let's see if we can find
Let's see.
I wouldn't think $1,000 a pop. Maybe like $250. Yeah, that one's like $80 for a singular model.
Yep. $80, so 5 of them would cost you $400.
There's just so few of them too.
Yeah. There are legitimately just not that many of them. Yeah, 109 euros for this one.
Yeah, and they're made of that old pewter too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you guys like the Stormbolter?
What the?
I don't like the Stormbolter. How does that magazine even work? Magazines.
So the way the implication of it, based off of how it's designed, is that what they did is they legit took two bolters, welded them together in the only way that they could, instead of just like actually building a storm bolter. So you've got one gun on the left side feeding from the bottom, and then the gun on the right side they literally had to flip 180 degrees and weld those two together, and then get the trigger to work for both of them. So you have the magazine feeding from the bottom and the magazine feeding from the top for the opposite barrels.
It's beautiful. Makes my eyes bleed.
Like I said, as we keep kind of going through a lot of this older stuff, you'll see things. You'll start to see things that, like, you know, you'll start to see that, like, oh, that idea carried through. This one carried through. Like, here you go. Here's one. Let's see. Is this gonna take us? Well, shout out to. Hang on. Let's just. Shout out to Snakeworks Studio.
Oh, is that a Wraith Lord?
That's gonna be the precursor to like the Wraith Guard, but that's just an Eldar dreadnought or a space elf dreadnought.
That is wild.
Oh yeah. There you go.
That looks pretty though.
Mm-hmm.
The legs are so long and spindly. It kind of, it is that the model that they base the Wraith Lords off of in Dawn of War?
No, because let's just see here. I mean, to a certain extent, yes, but this is before there was a lot of that, so it's more just a thing of this is an Eldar dreadnought.
Okay.
So you see here the Banshee Eldar support dreadnought, Eldar assault dreadnought, another Eldar assault dreadnought.
That yellow one is hurting my eyes.
Oh yeah. Hang on.
Yeah, that's Illidan, isn't it?
It's something.
Original salamander.
Oh, jeez.
It looks like vomit.
the original salamanders.
They look like Marines Malevolent with a little bit of camo on them.
Uh-huh.
I don't see it much anymore, but I remember whenever I was first really getting into 40K and the like, people were like, "Oh, the old models are better. The new ones look terrible." And I'm looking at the old style of things, and I can't take that criticism seriously whenever I see these old models. For the most part, they're charming. They're definitely charming. But they're definitely also products of a particular time.
Oh yeah, no. One of the big things is you have to remember 40K is technically about as old as I am. So 40K is getting ready to turn 40 years old. It is very much a product of the 80s.
God damn.
So you have the Firehawks here. You know, the original Firehawks with the literal mushroom cloud as their chapter icon.
Which is pretty sick.
Yep. Here's another really important aspect to 40k and the Space Marines. So you have the Mantis Warriors here in their green armor, but then you have the Mantis Warriors for the Tranquility Campaign sniper unit. And you notice the color schemes. Yeah, the color scheme's completely different. You
scenario specific color schemes. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. You have the Executioners chapter, and they're different. They have a pauldron painted up differently depending on what squad you're in. You have the Tiger Claws, and they're just tiger colored. The Marines Errant and their Second Outer Galactic Expeditionary Force, and then you just have the Marines Errant normal.
Yeah, a lot of these are just hard to look at, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's very bright colors.
Yes.
Like a lot of bright colors.
Very bright colors, very vibrant, very loud. But you do actually see the Space Marines changing up their color scheme. Depending on what exactly they have, what exactly is happening. You also have, the miniatures being very squat compared to like modern plastic figures. Like, if you look at this Marine here, and this, I think this was the 30th anniversary Imperial Space Marine anniversary model. This guy towers over these old guys.
Mostly because he's not squatting, I imagine.
Yeah. Another fun thing with this is that a lot of these miniatures were basically named characters. And so the way that a lot of this worked was that when you paid your points, you would buy these miniatures and you would play scenarios, right? You wouldn't simply when you built, like, here, for example, this is technically not Rogue Trader era. This is actual first edition 40k. And the way that I can tell that is that this is way too many miniatures for a Rogue Trader era game. Rogue Trader era games were very, very small, very scenario specific. Once you get out of that and you get into Warhammer 40,000 first and second edition, that's when you start to see these armies consisting of a company captain, a command squad, biker squads, assault squads. Here's a tactical squad. There's an old Rogue Trader dreadnought, and then you have a pair of Castiform dreadnoughts and a venerable Castafarium dreadnought. Back there's the old land speeder. I think these are some old Grey Knights in the back here. And then obviously the Land Raiders, which the Land Raiders haven't really changed for a very, very long time.
Good lord, you're right. The Land Raiders have not changed at all.
The Land Raiders have gotten bigger.
Well, yeah.
That's an old Land Raider.
Is that a Land Raider?
That is a Land Raider.
It looks like a horse pill.
Nope. There you go. Land Raiders. There's a Blood Angel one.
It looks like a chibi Land Raider.
I know, right?
It looks like you see something from Titanicus. Their version of like the Land Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like something that belongs on a keychain.
I know.
I don't know. I would have this as a keychain.
Yeah, here we go.
There we go.
Somebody on eBay is selling this, or at least was selling this for $474. That is the old Spartan Land Raider.
I got the new one.
Yeah. You'll need to throw a picture of that up on the Discord.
Yeah, I will. As soon as I have not taken a picture of it yet. I'll have to do that. I've kind of been waiting to finish some other stuff that I'm in the middle of painting. Those little Land Raiders.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, listen. If you ever get your hands on any of these old Rogue Trader things, they are fucking great. They are really, really good. The old Rhino.
Well, the Rhino hasn't changed either.
Uh-huh.
It's just a box.
Yeah, the vehicles really don't fix what isn't broke for a lot of them, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, also a lot of what I've seen doing these deep dives into the old stuff here is that if you go back and you look, see this Predator tank right here?
Mm-hmm.
See if I can remember exactly. So obviously this is the modern Predator. Here's a Damocles Rhino, right? Here it is.
Well,
Deimos.
Yeah, that's the
There
one
it is.
Horsehair's thing.
Yeah, the Deimos pattern Rhino. Rogue Trader pattern Rhino.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of the Forge, one of the big secrets is that a lot of the Forge World models are actually, here we go. A lot of the old Forge World, or a lot of the new Forge World models are actually just these old Rogue Trader models updated, which is super cool.
I guess I can just say that's Horsehair in general.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of these things are just this way, and it's like, yeah, if you really want to harken back to that old stuff that 40K used to have, there you go. Here's one of everybody's favorite things. I'll just let you read that out loud.
Deodorant stick Gravitac.
Yep. Before Games Workshop could actually get sculpted and modeled a lot of the vehicles, they would give you instructions on how to take an old deodorant stick and turn it into...
Oh, fuck. Deodorant. Fuck me, I can't say it. I thought it...
I know. You think it's something from 40K that you're supposed to pronounce really weird. No. It's literally just...
It's just a deodorant stick.
Yeah. Go to the store, buy a speed stick or a degree, or a degree, and use it up. Take it apart when it's when it's done and dead, and now you have a grav tank.
Now that really was a litmus test. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Genuinely fascinating.
Like once you see it, once you see the stick, you can't unsee it.
I see the stick. How dare you, Ghost? Oh my god.
I don't want.
Oh, I mean, like as much as we get frustrated with modern Games Workshop, just remember, this is where 40K comes from.
They used to have fun. What the hell?
Yeah, this used to be how you had to do things. Before the before the orcs had like their own dedicated tanks, one of the things that you used to see was you would just get just like any mini and just throw random orc bits on it. Here you go. You guys recognize what that was originally?
Yeah, that's a repulsor tank.
Yeah. This is what orc players used to do. You did have stuff like, this thing. I forget exactly what this is called.
The grot tank.
Yeah. But they did have these, but you would also have stuff like, where did it go? You would also have stuff like orc players would do stuff like this. You would get a Lehman Russ and you would just slap random bits on it to turn it into an orc looted tank instead of
No, I get it.
All right, you guys want
but now
some...
you can buy the actual thing.
Yeah, now you can buy the actual thing.
Marked up. Egregiously.
Okay. You guys want some really extra crazy stuff?
Sure.
I think I butchered his name. Oh yeah, here we go. You know who this is?
Fucking Obi-Wan Sherlock Holmes Kenobi or something.
Yeah. He even made a guest cameo in Emperor TTS.
I do not know who that is. Please educate me.
This is Inquisitor Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau.
Yeah. Yeah, I know this guy. When I saw a TTS video, I'm like, this can't be a real character. Oh, he's a real character.
Oh, he was. He was. He was one of he was unironically one of the best Inquisitors in Rogue Trader era.
He better be with a fucking name like that.
Oh yeah. He was meant to just kind of be like the first Imperial Inquisitor. He was meant to be this great detective, so they gave him, Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Sherlock Holmes, Inspector Clouseau. Who is this guy, by the way? This is actually...
Oh, yeah, I know who that is.
As old as I am, Inspector Clouseau is actually just too old for me.
He's like super old. And only my
And then
dad, who's like in his 60s, knows Kuso.
Yeah.
that is some old shit right there.
Yep. Pink Panther, the actual original Pink Panther, was Inspector Clouseau. So that's like this was the first Imperial Inquisitor ever made.
Well, I love him.
Yep.
He looks like a fucking hippie.
Oh my god, somebody did fan art of him. Lord Carmi. Lord Carmi did a fantastic job on this. I have no idea who Lord Carmi is, but
Godspeed.
Godspeed. That is magnificent in its chaos. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of lore around Inquisitor Obi-Wan here because he was so old. There really wasn't a lot of lore to go off of. He was just kind of an Inquisitor. Then we have this guy. The less is said about Inquisitor Jacques Draco, the better, because this was part of that jump from Rogue Trader into First Edition and into Second Edition when 40K was starting to really gain in popularity. But they didn't really know what exactly they were gonna do with 40K. Not yet, anyway. Which is why when you sit down, if you sit down and read these books, they're very weird. They're very weird, and if you know anything about modern 40K lore, none of it really meshes. It's weird.
It's like a whiplash, right?
Oh yeah, no, just absolute whiplash. If like Games Workshop actively tries to forget that this ever happened. But yeah, this is where a lot of this stuff kind of comes from. It was old, wild, and crazy times back in the Rogue Trader eras. Let's see here. Let me try to pull up. Let's see. So thank you to the Internet Archive for having this available. Yep. Apart from these rules and a selection of models and scenery, you will need dice, rules, scrap paper, and pencils. Dice are used during combat. A couple make a useful shaker.
What am I looking at right here?
These are the oldest rules.
Also, I realized I was muted for an X amount of time.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah. This is one of the things that I'm going to read this out in its entirety, verbatim. I just want you guys to stop and think about this as I'm reading. Okay?
Oh boy.
All ears.
All right. You also need players. Games are usually fought between two opposing sides. each side represented by one or more players. For larger games, it is convenient to have more than one player on each side, as this makes dice throwing and troop movement quicker and easier. The co-commanders can agree to divide their forces between them as they wish. To fight a Warhammer 40,000 game, you will need an extra person called the Game Master, usually referred to simply as the GM. He will act as the umpire or referee, and it is his task to enforce the rules of the game, interpreting them where necessary. The GM should make sure that the players have sufficient dice, pencils, paper, and any other items needed during play. It is possible to fight a game without a GM so long as the players are willing to cooperate a little, adopt a reasonable attitude, and are honest in their record keeping. It is also possible to fight games in which all of the players are on the same side against the side controlled directly by the GM. Of course, this does rely on the GM to make the game as fair as possible. One-sided games against the GM should be conducted with the aim of finding how well the players perform rather than aiming to defeat them.
Oh, that's actually kind of wholesome whenever it's explained like that.
Yep.
If there's more of that Picasso art, holy shit.
Oh yeah, dude. Things used to be wild. Let's see here. Here we go. Sometimes a creature can be given a characteristic score of 0. This indicates that the creature or individual concerned has no ability in that field whatsoever. This is most commonly applied to ballistic skill. For example, a creature with a ballistic skill of 0 may not use any long-range weapons at all, even improvised weapons such as thrown rocks.
So shit, you just toss a rock and you miss completely.
Used to have encumbrance as a rule.
That's a Zote right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old school Zote right there.
Zote. By the way, in this era, the Zotes were part of the Tyranids.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
But this was before the Tyranids.
Well, this is before the Tyranids as we understand them today.
Yeah, because Tyranid art back then looked interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have some artwork. Line of sight, hiding, shooting from elevated positions.
And these old books are something else.
Weapon modifiers. The old weapon strength toughness chart.
It hasn't changed all that much.
Mm-hmm.
At least if you're looking at specific games now.
Yep. Hand-to-hand combat, charging. You guys know what that is?
No, what is it?
That is a Catachan devil.
So it's a big spooky centipede.
Yep.
Centipede scorpion.
Yep.
Not only is it a snake, not only is it a centipede, but it is also a scorpion.
And supposedly this thing moves very quickly, very silently, and could wrap around his victim and drag him into the jungle in like a blink of an eye. It'll pick apart your unit when you're like on a patrol until you're the last one standing without knowing.
Yeah, here we go. Marine Commander, Imperial Record AASW 05 slash 015, blah, blah, blah. Profile, Lehman Russ. Born 26/12/016, Millennium 32. Garanta D. Garantan System. Commissioned Adeptus Terra as Special Agent 01340441, Millennium 42. First rose to Imperial Notice during Lucan Crusade. Appointed Imperial Commander Lucan 033342, Millennium 32. Instrumental in founding Adeptus Astartes Unit 4. Space Wolves suffered severe alveola damage during acid storms on Sosa, transplanted with model Cybron Osmetic Gill.
All right.
I told
The
you.
fuck did that word spaghetti mean?
That this is a photo of Lehman Russ as he was originally conceived. The Primarch Lehman Russ used to just be a dude who founded the Adeptus Astartes Unit 4 Space Wolves. That was it. He was just a dude. Born Millennium 32.
Now he's space dead.
Now he is Space Dad. Old Eldar artwork.
Oh my god. You know, one thing I could say about fantasy is that its art style more or less it has remained consistent. It's just about how good they've gotten at drawing them at the things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Here's the bit about the dreadnoughts. They're literally also known as battle suits, battle armor, mech suits, and mech armor.
They have a whole chart on where they're hit.
No. Damage to the suits. So, once all of the suit's damage points are gone, it is considered destroyed. The pilot is dead unless he can make his ejector seat saving roll, assuming he has one. As with vehicles, a dreadnought suit may suffer special damage effects. In any turn that the suit suffers one or more damage points, roll a d6. A score of 6 indicates that something has malfunctioned. Roll a d10 and consult the chart to determine what has gone wrong. As with vehicles, if the suit suffers more than one damage point during the turn, add +1 to the d6 and d10 dice rolls for each additional point.
And it sounds like there's a little bit of battle tech thrown in there.
I was gonna say this sounds like Battletech a lot.
Yep. So when you look at this chart, it's like, okay, so if I took 1 point of damage, I roll a d6. Okay, I got a 6, something has malfunctioned. So I roll a d10. Well, that means right or left arm, loss of coordination, power loss, mechanical jam, weapons loss, systems failure, or control loss. You do 2 points of damage and you can get up to smell of burning. You do 3 points of damage, and on this d10, the suit explodes, killing the pilot unless he can make his basic saving throw or use his ejector seat if he has one. Saved models can be placed anywhere next to the wrecked suit. So, Space Marines used to be able to eject out of dreadnoughts.
Now it's the whole damn coffin, baby.
Yep.
It would be funny if the whole coffin just ejects.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
Mm-hmm. And then on the very next page, Warrior Robots.
Warrior robots.
Warrior robots?
Yep. 40K used to have robots.
The Men of Iron?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Robots are a part of everyday life in human and alien society. Vehicles and any comparable machines can be effectively turned into robots by the installation of appropriate auto systems. Auto drive, auto aim, and auto fac, or auto facility. These auto systems provide the equivalent of a human operator and are fully capable of discriminating, making decisions, and taking appropriate action. So, for example, a las cannon with auto aim can be fired just as if it had a crewman. Warrior robots. The greater majority of robots are simple runarounds, workmen, or toys and have no place on the battlefield. Warrior robots, however, are different. They are machines created specifically for war as the soldiery by proxy for a living biological race. In human space, the Emperor's tech priests are continually experimenting with and improving their dread warrior legions of robots. Machines implanted with the will to slay and despoil. The AdMech used to build robots.
Shit has changed so much.
I know.
I'm tempted to say let's give first edition a try.
Oh, this is a first
It
edition.
feels
This
like
is
About to say let's give like zero edition a try.
yeah. Old Rogue Trader.
Yeah,
I feel like it will take forever to play, though.
I mean, it takes forever to play a regular game.
Very true. Very true.
Like the average 40K game is like what 3 hours? This
Yeah, a 2,000 point game is like a minimum 3 hours. Yeah.
if we do like a 1,000 point game with this, I say it won't be too long.
Mm-hmm. See psionics. The random ability chart.
I just probably use like the current 40K models in the tabletop to be what's the word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simulated.
You have a bunch of You then also have a bunch of mutations that you can assign. You guys want a space marine with eye stalks?
I guess this is before the chaos stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eye stock, so they just have their eyes just sticking out of the helmets.
Yeah, this mutation deprives the creature of normal eyes, replacing them with stalk eyes like those of a crab. Such creatures cannot use the normal range of infravision or photochromatic gear.
So I have a question for you. How many factions are in probably for like the last
What the fuck?
20 minutes that we got? How many factions are in this version of 40K right now?
I know for a fact you have the Space Marines, the Space Elves, the Space Orcs, and I believe the Imperial Guard and the Tyranids. So 5.
Those are some wacky mutations for people.
Yep.
I like how you just have a goat man right there.
Uh-huh.
Fucking ice stocks.
Yep. Oh yeah. You wanted to try 1,000 points, Rabid?
Yeah.
A melt-a-gun costs 7 points. A las gun costs only 1.5. 1,000 points is a massive game.
For this era?
Yep.
Shit, might just have to go down to 500 then.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Point values. Many gamers find it difficult if they don't have a third person to act as their GM and are forced to resort to doing without, relying instead upon their own honesty and knowledge of the rules. Whilst it is a simple matter for two opponents to deal with the mechanics of fighting battle, designing a scenario for the game is always tricky. If a normal game In a normal game, it is largely up to the GM to determine the sides because only the GM is fully aware of the capabilities and objectives of the opponents or of any special obstacles, problems, and other situations in the scenario, blah, blah, blah. Points for creatures are worked out from the profile. Points values are given for all of the creatures listed in the background section. The human profile, as given below, is considered to be average and has been given a base value of 5 points. The values of other creatures are worked out relative to this. So, a Space Marine in this era is 5 points base. Then you have to give him a bolter and his power armor. And his bolt gun only costs 2 points. Right here.
All right. So if we're going to play this, we're going to have to become accountants for a little while, from what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, yeah.
Carapace, displacer, flak, mesh plate. Power armor is 6 points. So a tactical marine it starts at 5 points, adds 6 points. Now we're up to 11, 13 points with a bolt gun.
The number, it's so weird seeing all the numbers so small.
I know.
Because the way the game is now is like 2,000 points. Everything costs like over 100 points.